Welcome to Doomscroll.fm Top Stories, where reality unravels like a soap opera, written by caffeinated squirrels and narrated by a jazz-loving cyborg with a vendetta. This show is 100% AI generated with zero human consultation, much like a mushroom's dream of becoming a stand-up comedian in a world populated by sentient rubber ducks. And now for some views, click like and subscribe. Stu J asks judge to seal Epstein Associates' names despite transparency claims. Hiding the identities of those who cashed Epstein's dirty checks is like putting a Band-Aid on a bullet wound and calling it surgery. Paramount Plus offers 50% off, yet still can't discount the cringe of streaming another South Park episode. It's like they're selling you a golden ticket to watch the same old circus. But hey, at least you get a discount on recycled punchlines. Ethan Allen, CEO, credits tariffs for domestic manufacturing growth, but ignores the price hike hammer hitting the wall. It's the rock star version of saying you'll retire after one last tour, which, like your uncle's New Year diet, might never end. When your business strategy involves jumping the gun on $1 billion company's big reveal, you've got to wonder if your next product should be a bulletproof vest. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where sanity melts like sugar. Proof nothing is true, reality is shattered desire. It's like buying a diet book at a donut shop. Sure, you might lose weight, but only if you stop licking the frosting. The Labor Party's internal politics are starting to resemble a game of musical chairs where the music never stops and everyone is left standing, wondering if the prize was ever worth the scramble. The 10-year Treasury yield falls toward its lowest level this year, but Wall Street still insists everything's fine, when investors' dreams of growth deflate faster than a punctured balloon. You have to wonder if their crystal balls are made of cheap glass. Android droppers deliver spyware, not just banking Trojans, but the real surprise is they still can't make your battery last longer. When your phone's more stuffed with spyware than a Thanksgiving turkey, you realize the future wasn't about flying cars, but about who steals your texts first. Just what we needed. A pocket-sized nagging device. Now you can pay for the privilege of being pestered by a digital buddy that's as clingy as a toddler and as witty as a brick. It's like inviting someone to a peace conference and then kicking them in the shins on the way in, ensuring everyone knows how serious you are about diplomacy. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where sanity melts like sugar. Proof nothing is true, reality is shattered desire. Ministers resurrect NHS hospital league tables, solve nothing. Because nothing screams healthcare improvement like a good old-fashioned ranking system that turns patient care into a competitive sport rather than a public service. While governments twiddle their thumbs, ordinary citizens set sail with passion and plywood, proving once again that empathy floats where bureaucracy sinks. Supreme Court lifts ban, ICE rounds up families in LA car washes. Nothing says land of the free like rounding up folks between suds and wax, turning the American dream into a high-stakes game of hide and seek. When your solution to immigration is to turn factory floors into battlegrounds, it's clear the administration's motto is build the wall, and if that doesn't work, bring in the cavalry. Drone strikes Greta Thunberg's flotilla, making waves of hypocrisy. When drones start taking potshots at peace missions, it's like sending a tank to a flower show, proving once again that irony is alive and well, but empathy is on life support. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where sanity melts like sugar. Proof nothing is true, reality is shattered desire. AMD shares plunge. Broadcom bags AI deal, defies market. While Broadcom dances with new AI partners, AMD finds itself on the dance floor without a date, watching its stocks sink as fast as its competitive advantage. When delivering hope becomes a high-stakes game of dodge the drone, you know the world's moral compass is not just broken, it's spinning like a disco ball in a war zone. It's a touching moment when the Prince of Darkness gets a nod. But let's be real, rock's been buried under a mountain of pop glitter for years. Only 20% of global scientists collaborate across borders, and governments call it progress. While politicians play geopolitical chess, scientists are left trying to solve the climate crisis with one hand tied behind their backs and a blindfold on. Poland builds new Plagonia drones, claims they fly far, ignoring the irony of a peaceful nation making war toys. When a country known for piravies starts crafting their own drones, it's like your grandma suddenly joining a biker gang. Unexpected, unsettling, and now everyone's on edge. Judge slams Anthropic's $1.5 billion settlement, calls it a force-fed deal for authors. When a $1 trillion damage tag gets discounted, like last season's fashion, you know the courtroom's just the latest runway for corporate catwalks. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where sanity melts like sugar. Proof nothing is true, reality is shattered desire. When your neighborhood dispute turns into an international fireworks show, maybe it's time for everyone to put down the matches and pick up a history book. Taliban report over 2,200 dead in Afghan quake. Call it an act of fate. When your emergency plan is a prayer, a shovel, it's clear the only thing shaking harder than the ground is the nation's confidence in its rulers. Ghost Redirector hacks 65 servers, claims it's innovation. When hackers start calling their exploits art, you know the digital age has become a twisted gallery where the only brushstrokes are keystrokes and the canvas is your data. Trump denies Epstein letter, authenticity confirmed. In the land of alternative facts, the truth is like a unicorn, magical, elusive, and often mistaken for a hoax by those who'd rather saddle a donkey. When a senator tries to teach Russia a lesson with more sanctions, it's like throwing pebbles at a bear and expecting it to become vegan. Sounds noble, but don't hold your breath for immediate enlightenment. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where sanity melts like sugar. Proof nothing is true, reality is shattered desire. When we measure life survival by the percentage of places still habitable, it's like applauding the Titanic for its unsinkable deck chairs. Scattered spider exploits browser vulnerabilities. Then cybersecurity experts pretend it's an unexpected twist. When the digital locksmiths are too busy admiring their shiny new keys, the foxes slip through the browser henhouse undetected. Only 20% of relationships survive ultimatums, and Slate calls it love advice. If your partner's affection hinges on you becoming less of yourself, literally, it's time to amputate the relationship, not your body. Only 30% of fans say Neymar fulfilled his potential, and his entourage calls it a legacy. With more flair than follow-through, Neymar's career has been a masterclass in showmanship over substance, proving that style points don't always equal a golden boot. On Z to sack 3,500 workers calls it a focus on priorities. Apparently simplifying the bank means complicating the lives of thousands, because nothing says customer service like a human resources massacre disguised as corporate efficiency. Heathrow evacuates Terminal 4 over hazardous material scare. Other terminals still running. When one terminal goes on a chemical adventure, the rest carry on like it's just another day in the world's most unpredictable airport board game. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where sanity melts like sugar. Proof nothing is true, reality is shattered desire. Nepal bans social media, 19 killed in protests. When a government bans TikTok and Instagram, they might as well declare war on Gen Z, whose protests against the ban also highlight the rampant corruption and nepotism they can't swipe away. French protesters challenge new PM, demand accountability. The new prime minister barely got his feet under the desk before the streets erupted, as if the French needed another excuse to perfect their art of a democratic tantrum. When Google's algorithm serves you a multilingual menu instead of the song you wanted, it's like asking for a hit single and getting a global word salad. France swaps third PM in 12 months, calls it stability. When your political strategy resembles a game of musical chairs, it's no wonder the orchestra is playing the funeral march for fiscal responsibility while the audience wonders if anyone's steering the ship. Israel targets Hamas leader in Doha, calls it diplomacy. When your negotiation strategy involves airstrikes instead of discussions, you're not exactly setting the stage for peace talks, more like setting the world on fire and then wondering why everyone's upset. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where sanity melts like sugar. Proof nothing is true, reality is shattered desire. It's like going to your ex for a cup of sugar after trash talking them at every neighborhood barbecue. Except this time the omelet of geopolitical hypocrisy costs almost $500,000. Murdoch family resolves succession battle. Lachlan Murdoch takes control. Nothing changes. Meet the new boss, same as the old boss, but with a fresher haircut and a shinier Rolex. The empire's still spinning the same old tales. Australian police given power to search protesters for weapons, but neo-Nazis roam free. When the law hands out extra powers like candy at Halloween, it's a trick, not a treat, especially when the ghosts of hate get a pass to crash the party. President Trump slaps 50% tariffs on India, then calls it a strategic partnership. In the great game of international relations, Trump's tariffs are like setting your own house on fire to teach the neighbor a lesson, while the smoke alarms play Hail to the Chief. French PM Bayrou calls surprise confidence vote, and now he's on the chopping block. When your political strategy is as stable as a souffle in an earthquake, it's no wonder the opposition smells blood like a Parisian bakery at dawn. It's like Trump has a California-shaped dartboard, and Newsom's just trying to remind him that the state isn't his personal piñata. It's a place where people actually live. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where sanity melts like sugar. Proof nothing is true, reality is shattered desire. Federal Reserve Governor stays on while suing Trump, who wants her out. It's a bureaucratic version of Survivor, where the immunity idol is a lawsuit and the tribal council is a courtroom showdown. May the best litigant win. It's like a high-stakes game of duck hunt, but the stakes are global stability, and the prize is avoiding World War III. No cheat codes here, folks. Because nothing says leadership like brushing off connections to notorious figures, and then hitting the links as if scandals are just sand traps on the fairway of life. When the bar for progress is set so low that stepping over it requires a microscope. Perhaps it's time to rethink the definition of sufficient. Spotify blocks access to 96 tiers by the Mysterians unless you update your browser. because simple music joy requires a tech upgrade. It's a classic case of digital gatekeeping. Just when you want a dose of raw garage rock, you're trapped in a software sales pitch, proving once again that even nostalgia isn't immune to their relentless march of tech obsolescence. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where sanity melts like sugar. Proof nothing is true, reality is shattered desire. Disney Plus lists 55 top shows, but still sells nostalgia as innovation. With more remakes than an indecisive movie director, Disney Plus is the streaming service equivalent of a midlife crisis. Throwing money at old favorites hoping they'll look fresh next to Netflix's shiny new originals. It's like being handed the keys to a new car, only to find out it's parked on a train track with the express barreling towards you. Welcome to French politics, where the chaos is always on schedule. Israeli warplanes bomb 2 Syrian cities, claim self-defense. When your neighbor's idea of security involves bombing your backyard, it's like calling a sledgehammer a precision tool, crude, destructive, and guaranteed to make the neighborhood watch meetings awkward. Taylor Frankie Paul becomes the next Bachelorette, proving reality TV's appetite for drama is as insatiable as a toddler with a sugar high. It's comforting to know that amidst the chaos of the 21st century, we can always rely on the sanctity of televised dating to distract us from the dumpster fire raging outside. Earth's inner core relies on carbon, yet carbon's only fame is climate chaos. Turns out carbon isn't just the villain in our atmospheric horror story. It's also the unsung hero, keeping our planet's core from being a molten blob. French PM takes office as protests block everything, but Macron calls it democracy. When your first day on the job looks like a remix of Les Miserables, it's clear the only thing more disruptive than the protests is the leadership itself. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where sanity melts like sugar. Proof nothing is true, reality is shattered desire. Trump administration checks 33 million voters, claims it's about citizenship. When your vote is scrutinized harder than a billionaire's tax return, it's clear democracy's on life support and the ventilators made in Mar-a-Lago. SAP patches critical net Weaver flaws, assigns them perfect 10.0 CVSS scores. When your software's vulnerability rating matches your bowling score, it's time to ask if the pins are coding better than your engineers. Ford recalls 1.5 million vehicles, calls it a minor inconvenience. If your rear view camera is as reliable as a politician's promise, maybe it's time to start driving backwards into the future. When your geopolitical strategy resembles a game of Jenga, don't act surprised when someone pulls out the wrong block and your empire starts to wobble. When the Department of Homeland Security starts naming operations like they're action movies, you know we're just one step away from them selling popcorn and calling it justice for all. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where sanity melts like sugar. Proof nothing is true, reality is shattered desire. When an airline can't manage to keep track of 3 tiny bundles of fur, you start wondering if their baggage claim is run by the same people who hide socks in dryers. It seems in Thailand, scales of justice are less Lady Liberty and more a game of musical chairs where the music just stops when you're least expecting it. Climate models missing the big freeze in the world's coldest corner is like missing a polar bear on a beach. Only this time, the bear's looking for a new home because its old one's turning into a water park. Biosyn promises eternal life, but dogs prefer gourmet skeletons. When even the family dog rejects your biotech miracle as a chew toy, you might want to reconsider the marketing strategy, unless, of course, the plan was to turn the afterlife into a pet-friendly buffet. Texas A&M fires professor for gender content, calls it inconsistent. Apparently discussing gender in children's literature is now as taboo as reading Harry Potter in a wizard-hating household. But don't worry, the course on unicorns still stands. Nature charges $40 for gut fungus news, but gut bugs are free. While you're coughing up cash for scientific revelations, the real kicker is your gut's already hosting a fungus party with salmonella as the uninvited guest, proving once again that ignorance isn't just bliss. It's a budget-friendly health hazard. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where sanity melts like sugar. Proof nothing is true, reality is shattered desire. Cash Cobain got the call, and it wasn't for a feature. It was a cease and desist on the dreams of every hip-hop head clinging to the hope that Jay-Z might actually bless their playlists again. Trump proposes Gaza ceasefire, still stokes flames. A ceasefire proposal from Trump is like asking a fox to guard the hen house. Expect feathers to fly and a lot of clucking. Slate's parenting advice column suggests a ridiculous stunt is family bonding, but it's more like a theme park hostage situation. When your day at the happiest place on earth turns into a meltdown marathon, it's less about magic and more about survival. Only 40% of governments act on climate change, and the New Yorker calls it a complex subject. When the planet's melting faster than an ice cream cone in the Sahara, labeling it complex is like calling a hurricane a gentle breeze. In a match where tennis balls flew faster than presidential decrees, the real winner was the patience of fans who waited longer than a Trump rally speech. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where sanity melts like sugar. Proof nothing is true, reality is shattered desire. In the age of AI-generated hits and TikTok dance challenges, a fresh single is about as groundbreaking as a new flavor of pumpkin spice latte. Labor Department revises job numbers, reveals 911,000 hires, and calls it a win despite inflation's chokehold. When the economy's secret sauce is a pinch of optimism and a gallon of inflated dreams, you can't help but wonder who's really cooking the books. Twitter suspends Claire Danes' fan account, claims it violated a policy nobody understands. In the digital age, even the sincerest celebrity homage can get lost in the algorithmic soup, leaving fans wondering if admiration is now a thought crime. When life throws you a curveball, sometimes you end up with a voice that could headline its own wildlife documentary. Justice seems to be a selective sport where the rules are made up and Russian airstrike kills over 20 in Ukrainian village. Zelensky condemns the attack as yet another act of senseless brutality. In the twisted game of geopolitical chess, innocent lives are the pawns sacrificed at the altar of power and ego, while leaders play with rhetoric as if words could shield against shrapnel. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where sanity melts like sugar. Proof nothing is true, reality is shattered desire. Like a politician sidestepping a puddle of toxic sludge, Starmer clings to Mandelson while ignoring the stench of Epstein's shadow, proving yet again that regret is the cheapest currency in politics. Glenn Hughes channels Bowie for new album claims originality. In a world where rock legends have been recycling riffs like they're saving the planet, Hughes insists he's the Picasso of rock, painting with the same colors but always swearing it's a new masterpiece. When your therapist is an algorithm, the only thing more automated than your advice is the privacy breach waiting to happen, and trust is just another line of code. Dr. Peter Hotez battles anti-science fervor, yet the book's launch feels like a whisper in a hurricane of conspiracy. Fighting ignorance with facts today is like trying to put out a wildfire with a squirt gun, but at least someone brought a hose. Chaz Stevens is showing Florida that if you're going to ride the Freedom Train, you might want to check if the tracks are made of rubber logic and political theater. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where sanity melts like sugar. Proof nothing is true, reality is shattered desire. When drones start taking aim at peace efforts, it's clear the world's gone from peace. Talks to peace squawks, with the war hawks running the show. It's like watching a magician saw his own leg off and call it a grand illusion, all while the audience slowly backs away. Trump announces European leaders' visit to U.S. for Ukraine talks, while he plans a chat with Russia. The conflict continues. When it comes to peace, Trump's strategy is like trying to fix a leaky roof by inviting the rain inside for a chat. Law enforcement reports Kirk critically injured. Then the newsletter promises exclusive insights like a gossip column with a siren. In a world where tragedy is just another headline, the only thing more predictable than the news is the relentless march of email alerts pretending to enlighten you. Israel launches strikes in 6 nations, calls it defense. When a country plays whack-a-mole with international borders, it's a miracle they don't accidentally bomb their own conscience back into action. When the immigration cops start playing James Bond with your data, you might wonder if the real threat is crossing a border or just logging in. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where sanity melts like sugar. Proof nothing is true, reality is shattered desire. When your humanitarian mission gets a sky-high fireworks show, courtesy of geopolitical drama, you know you're sailing in the wrong kind of spotlight. EU Commission plans Israel crackdown, but member states block progress, citing strategic concern. When it comes to bold actions, the EU is like a car with no gas. Lots of potential, zero movement, because nothing screams unified front like a bunch of squabbling nations refusing to agree on anything. %47 of U.S. businesses divert China investments, and Southeast Asia wins the jackpot. Who knew that the boardroom's new favorite game would be Risk Southeast Asia Edition, as American companies flee the Great Wall's shadow, hoping for better regulatory weather and a chance to dodge China's competitive kung fu. It's a classic case of blame the weather, not the vandal, as Sydney's soggy chaos turns crime-solving into a game of hide-and-seek, where the culprit's footprints are washed away before the ink dries on the report. Novo Nordisk cuts 9,000 jobs, calls it streamlining. Looks like when it comes to slimming down, Novo Nordisk is taking its own medicine, leaving 9,000 workers to shed their paychecks for corporate waistline management. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where sanity melts like sugar. Proof nothing is true, reality is shattered desire. It's like claiming to hit a bullseye. All the darts are still flying. Truth gets lost in the fog of war and politics. When your concert announcements feel like a Banksy stunt, you know the music industry has officially traded backstage passes for smoke and mirrors. When your best hope for change is a government toppled by TikTokers, maybe it's time to trade in the old guard for a new playlist. like celebrating the Titanic's deck leveling out for a moment before the iceberg gets the last word. A whisper of relief in a cacophony of economic chaos. Sending troops to solve deep-rooted social issues is like using a sledgehammer to fix a leaky faucet. Loud, dramatic, and ultimately ineffective, while the real problems fester beneath the surface. Robot lawnmowers priced at nearly $6,000 that still can't avoid dogfood. In 2025, the pinnacle of technology means you can pay a small fortune to watch a robot reenact a slapstick comedy routine with your backyard obstacles. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where sanity melts like sugar. Proof nothing is true, reality is shattered desire. When the truth is too on the nose, the paintbrush becomes a scalpel. Excising uncomfortable realities from courthouse walls faster than you can say artistic censorship. When two universities decide that the best way to educate the future is by merging into a mega campus, it's like saying the only way to serve knowledge is with a side of corporate restructuring. Australian court orders Brittany Higgins to pay 80% of Linda Reynolds' legal costs after Higgins' partner's post. When your defense strategy involves pole dancers and mini golf, it's clear you're aiming for a hole-in-one in the absurdity Olympics. When your financial strategy hinges on a crystal ball and a prayer, it's no wonder the market's just a high-stakes casino with a fancier dress code. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where sanity melts like sugar. Proof nothing is true, reality is shattered desire. Nature editors flagged image duplication in 2007 study, raising doubts about scientific integrity. When your cutting-edge research turns into a Photoshop contest, it's time to wonder if science is being written by the same folks who craft celebrity Instagram posts. Treasury Secretary warns of massive refunds if Supreme Court voids Trump tariffs, calls it a financial boomerang. When your economic strategy involves betting the farm on a legal coin toss, you better hope heads means you're not bankrupt. Shooting down drones is one way to say, not in my backyard, but it's like putting a screen door on a submarine, useful until it springs a leak and then everyone's just holding their breath. Australia spends $1.1 billion on underwater ghost shark drones, calls it a defense strategy. France posts beach signs to deter UK-bound asylum seekers, as if sand can stop desperation. It's like putting a no swimming sign in the Sahara. When survival's at stake, a little ink on wood won't keep hope from setting sail. Apparently, trickle-down economics is code for letting the rich shower while everyone else waits for a drought to end with a teaspoon. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where sanity melts like sugar. Proof nothing is true, reality is shattered desire. Federal court blocks Trump from firing Fed Governor Lisa Cook, calls it an unprecedented legal battle. In a plot twist worthy of a courtroom drama, Trump's attempts to axe Lisa Cook have been temporarily shelved, leaving the Federal Reserve's independence hanging by a thread and proving once again that in Washington, nothing is ever truly off the table. Trump asks EU to impose 100% tariffs on India and China, then blames them for global inflation. It's like asking the arsonist to put out the fire while simultaneously handing him a gallon of gasoline. Blockdag networks sell bed badge tokens at pre-sale, claiming it's the future of blockchain while investors smell a pyramid scheme. It's the classic crypto hustle. Promise the moon, deliver a paperweight, and vanish faster than a magician's assistant, leaving hopeful investors clutching their empty digital wallets. Moscow denies airspace violation as 19 Russian drones buzz Polish skies, and NATO's trigger fingers get itchy. In the theater of international diplomacy, Moscow swears it's not auditioning for the role of airspace intruder, while NATO's forced to play drone swatter, leaving Poland wondering if it's the punchline of a bad geopolitical joke. Charlie Kirk rumored dead in shooting, but no confirmation. In a world where rumors spread faster than facts, social media hysteria turns every whisper into a shout, leaving truth buried under the noise of speculation. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where sanity melts like sugar. Proof nothing is true, reality is shattered desire. Google Pixel 10 debuts at $799. Promises breakthrough tech but still can't make your ex text back. Buying a Pixel in 2025 is like getting a new hat to distract from the fact you're still walking into the same old brick wall. When politicians stack sanctions like Jenga blocks, it's no wonder the global game teeters while the players pretend they're not the ones pulling pieces from the bottom. When Silicon Valley's finest sell you on a bubble, remember, they're the ones holding the pins while you hold the empty promise of AI utopia. House committee reveals Trump's birthday note to Epstein, calls it transparency. If transparency means airing dirty laundry, then we just got a whiff of what happens when power and privilege write each other love notes. Watching Beirut cling to power is like watching a cat try to swim. It's awkward, a little sad, and you just know it's not going to end well. Spanish PM Pedro Saintor accuses Israel of extermination, then prepares diplomatic wrist slap. In a world where words are as cheap as the ink they're printed with, Sanka's verbal grenades land with all the impact of a water balloon. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where sanity melts like sugar. Proof nothing is true, reality is shattered desire. The filmmakers must have thought, why not blend the horrors of war with the agony of love? Spoiler alert, nobody wins. Tyler Herwig releases single Honey, That's You. Celebrates love while music industry celebrates recycled sentiment. In a world where originality is as rare as a unicorn in the subway, Herwig's syrupy serenade sticks to the formula like gum under a school desk. When diplomacy feels like a wrestling match, you know someone's about to body slam the art of conversation right out the window. Salt Typhoon cyber espionage reveals 45 secret domains, and hackers still call it subtle. When your online security is as tight as a screen door on a submarine, it's no surprise the cyber pirates are setting sail through your data. When thoughts and prayers are the only security upgrade, so wonder anyone survives the ideological crossfire at these academic shootouts. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where sanity melts like sugar. Proof nothing is true, reality is shattered desire. New Zealand police shoot fugitive father Tom Phillips dead after 4-year run with kids, calling it a necessary exchange. When a family game of hide and seek ends in gunfire, you can bet the rules were never meant to be followed in the first place. RFK Jr. calls CDC director a liar. Senate sets stage for showdown. When a conspiracy theorist like RFK Jr. becomes the moral compass, it's like hiring a fox to guard the hen house and then blaming the hens for the mess. China-linked T-41 hackers target U.S. trade officials, then claim it's just business as usual. When cyber espionage becomes a diplomatic language of choice, it's like sending a bouquet of malware with a note saying, "Wish you were compromised." Trump declares alleged Epstein birthday note dead issue, then dodges accountability like a magician with a penchant for disappearing acts. Trump hopes the public will focus on the smoke and mirrors while the real questions vanish into thin air. When bullets fly and trust dies, the real crime is how fast the blame gets passed around like a hot potato at a political picnic. AI promises jackpot wisdom in gambling, but the house always wins. Betting your money on AI for gambling advice is like trusting a fox to guard the hen house, except this fox is programmed to sell you more lottery tickets. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where sanity melts like sugar. Proof nothing is true, reality is shattered desire. Only 30% of New Yorkers vote regularly. Zoran Mamdani calls it democracy. When the electorate's enthusiasm rivals a sloth's nap schedule, even a big lead feels like winning a popularity contest in an empty room. When the French presidency becomes a game of musical chairs, you have to wonder if the real winner is the manufacturer of office nameplates. Watching investors cheer Klarna's market debut is like clapping for a magician who just made your wallet disappear. When Mother Nature throws a tantrum, Australians just grab their surfboards and say, "No worries," as if dodging tornadoes is the latest extreme sport. German prosecutors charge 8 extremists, call them neo-Nazi enthusiasts, despite their failed separatist fantasy. Turns out, even in 2025, some folks still think they can cosplay as villains from a bad history book, forgetting that real life doesn't come with an undo button. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where sanity melts like sugar. Proof nothing is true, reality is shattered desire. India offers best deal to U.S., then tariff war ignites like a bonfire in a fireworks factory. In the diplomatic theater of outrage, words are the cheapest currency, while the real cost is paid by civilians caught in the geopolitical crossfire. The only thing more absent than functioning hospitals is international backbone, as doctors play surgeon and soldier in a country where healthcare has become a war zone hobby. It's like the NCAA just discovered water is wet and expects applause for banning swimmers from the pool, because accountability is for everyone else, right? Spotify CEO Daniel Ek invests millions in AI military drone technology, then claims to support artists. When your playlist funds the next Terminator, it's time to wonder if your streaming dollars are more drone strike than dance beat, because nothing says support the arts like a soundtrack to dystopia. Claiming underdog status when you've got more trophies in your cabinet than most clubs have fans is like the wolf trying to pass as a vegan. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where sanity melts like sugar. Proof nothing is true, reality is shattered desire. Only 27% of UN members recognize Palestine, but UK, France, Canada, and Australia jump on the bandwagon. When it takes decades for countries to recognize a state that maps have acknowledged since the dawn of social media, it's like finally getting a Facebook friend request from your high school crush. Meaningful, but about 3 prom seasons too late. When your music covers more enigmatic than a cryptic crossword, it's either a stroke of genius or a marketing ploy to make you dive deep into your wallet, not your soul. It's democracy's version of a zombie apocalypse, where names of the politically undead haunt the ballots and voters play a game of guess who's actually running. Supreme Court lifts LA immigration stop limits after agents previously detained U.S. citizens, because who needs civil rights when you've got chaos? When you've got a political figure gambling against the national economy, it's like rooting for your own team to strike out and calling it strategic genius. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where sanity melts like sugar. Proof nothing is true, reality is shattered desire. When politicians start playing cultural dodgeball, the real losers are the folks just trying to live their lives without becoming political pawns in a game of xenophobic charades. In a world where scrolling is the new praying, Carlo Acutis might just be the holy beacon of hope for those seeking salvation in Wi-Fi hotspots. Trump announces Iraqi militia frees Elizabeth Thurkov, but only after months of torture. When the headline reads like a rescue mission but smells like a geopolitical chess move, remember, pawns are always the first to bleed for the King's Gambit. U.S. greenhouse gas emissions soar, still claim eco-friendliness. When your carbon footprint is the size of Bigfoot's, maybe it's time to stop pretending you're dancing with daisies and admit you're stomping on them. When your magician tells you the rabbit's fake, but still charges for the show, you start wondering if the illusion is on you or just in the profits. It's like rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic while the captain insists everything's shipshape. The iceberg's not impressed, and neither are the voters. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where sanity melts like sugar. Proof nothing is true, reality is shattered desire. China pushes pretend to work trend, calls it a solution to youth unemployment. When your job description reads like a sitcom script, it's no wonder the youth are perfecting their acting skills in the workplace. China's young workforce is discovering that pretending to hustle might be the only gig in town, if only it paid in something other than existential dread. This has been Doomscroll.fm, fading into irrelevance. This broadcast was 100% AI generated. No humans were abused in this production. Loosely based on public news, not journalism, not truth. Fictional satire, resemblance to real people or events is coincidental. If you believe any of this is real, consider enrolling in a course on mythical creatures. Hear more at doomscroll.fm or click like and subscribe. Thank you for listening.